I just want to introduce the next panel, which is Maximizing Federal Funding and Keeping It Flowing, which will be moderated by Amy Huffman. Amy joined NDIA as Policy Director in 2021. Amy has studied and worked in the digital inclusion field for 10 years. Prior to joining NDIA, Amy served as the state of North Carolina's first digital inclusion and policy manager. She's a public servant, systems thinker, innovative policy expert, and a storyteller with passion for closing the digital divide and ensuring all Americans can thrive in the 21st century's digital world. Amy Huffman, thank you.
Thank you, Mikhail. I was just telling Angie that last year Mikhail was on our panel, and now he gets to introduce us. I just love it so much. Hello, everyone, and I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I'm too loud. Sorry. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to be here. It's on Valentine's Day. We're in the city of brotherly love. We're here. I'm wearing pink, my favorite color, if you can't see it. Okay, I'm going to invite my panelists to come up and take a seat. I'm joined by representatives from 4 federal agencies, and I'm really, really excited about this opportunity to share with you all about the digital inclusion funding that's coming your way this year. So for the past couple years, we've been talking about this massive, historic investment in digital inclusion and digital equity, and we are so excited that we're actually going to start to see some of that money come your way. And so today we're going to talk about what that looks like, how best practices that these fine folks have seen from their point of view in the different agencies that they represent, and then also how, to Angela's point this morning, how can we sustain this? So this is not a moment, but a movement, so that we actually reach digital equity for all. So with that, I'm just going to go down the line and introduce, is it echoey?
Yeah.
Yeah? Better? Okay. Someone, tell me if it starts to sound bad, please. It's like having something in your teeth. Okay. I'm going to go down the line and introduce my panelists, but then they're going to give a more robust introduction to themselves and to the work that they do in the agency that I represent. So first, I have Miriam Montgomery, who is let's get your title right, Grants Management Policy Advisor for the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau at the Federal Communications Commission. Next, I have Mr. Joseph Wender, who is the Director of the Capital Projects Fund at the U.S. Department of Treasury. I also am joined by Angela Thee Bennett, who is the Digital Equity Director at the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. And then we're really thrilled that Laurel Levier, the Assistant Administrator for the Rural Utility Services at the United States Department of Agriculture, is here with us today for the first time. So I'm going to give the mic to Miriam to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about the work you do and the role that, how your agency advances digital equity.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Miriam Montgomery. I'm with the Federal Communications Commission, currently the lead for the Affordable Connectivity Outreach Grant Program. I know we're talking a lot about ACP wind down, but we're not giving up on that. We're all in, and there's a lot to be done. But yeah, supporting the Affordable Connectivity Program and the standing up the outreach grants component of it, and also leading our consumer outreach and education efforts at the Commission as well.
Okay. So, Joseph Wender, Director of the Capital Projects Fund at the Department of Treasury. So, I do think I want to take the moment just to acknowledge the historic nature of this panel and where we are in terms of federal funding for these efforts. But there's never been a moment where you've got 4 federal agencies representing billions of dollars of investment in digital equity at the same time, and that's happening right now. And so we should all, both celebrate that moment. Yeah, that's right. We should celebrate that moment, but also acknowledge the challenges that come with it. Just to talk briefly about where our program started and how it fits into this larger context. the origin story of the Capital Projects Fund and Treasury's involvement in broadband and digital equity is the coronavirus. It's the pandemic, right? It was the moment, we could really call it the national teaching moment, right? Everybody in this room knew that connectivity was essential for everyday life, for work, education, healthcare, communicating with one another, but it was the pandemic that put it into such sharp focus. And so Congress, in one of the COVID relief bills, ours being the American Rescue Plan, made a $10 billion investment in connectivity. Now, at Treasury, we know that connectivity is more than just bringing access to people's homes. So that's why we have 3 presumptively eligible uses of our funds. It's broadband access, it's tablets and laptops, a device program, as well as multi-purpose community facilities. And really, these are spaces where all of you can do your work, right? They're all ripe potential partners for all of you. Places that could sponsor and host digital navigators, places where digital skills are being taught. And so, ultimately from where I sit here at the Capital Projects Fund, it's about promoting access and promoting digital equity, both the tools and the spaces, literally the spaces needed to do all of your work. I'll end here by acknowledging I'm happy to be back at Net Inclusion. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Angela, for having me. I was honored to be in San Antonio at it last year, and I went to one of the job training facilities, and it really brought home for me how hard the work that you all do is, right? It's not just having to bring people in the doors, but it's acknowledging that every individual that walks inside the door is a unique person, is a unique individual with their own unique needs. And it just put into focus how hard all of the work that you do is. And that's why I'm just so honored and excited to be playing at least a small part and contributing to all the work that you're all doing. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Joey. Angie?
All right. So good afternoon. My name is Angela Thee Bennett, and I am honored to serve as the Digital Equity Director under the U.S. Department of Commerce's National Telecommunications and Information Administration, NTIA. My pronouns are she, her. So I have the privilege of sitting here because of you. Because of the NDIA community, your advocacy and the work that you've been doing resulted in the passage of the Digital Equity Act of 2021. Right? And that act resulted in $2.75 billion to empower individuals and communities to have the tools and resources they need to determine how they will live their lives. And that's powerful. And so it's the result of your work here. And so, I also want to level set that prior to the passage of the Digital Equity Act of 2021, those of you in this room have been doing this work and have been boots on the ground long before I have sat into this seat. So I acknowledge and respect and value your significant contributions to this work. And I sit here not as the expert in this space, but here in service to you to ensure that we are administering this $2.75 billion to ensure that it's truly going to the communities that are most impacted and those organizations that have been the boots on the ground doing the challenging, difficult work of empowering our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Laura?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Laurel Leverrier. I'm the Assistant Administrator of the Telecommunications Programs at USDA. I just want to start by saying a big thank you to Amy and Angela for inviting me. This is my first year at NDIA, and I'm really excited to be here with all of you. It's always interesting to go to a conference and be able to share your work, but I think for me, my focus is really learning from all of you and the great work that you all are doing. And so I'm just really excited about being here and being able to learn more about the work of so many folks across this country. At USDA, we like to call ourselves the People's Agency, and it really is that people focus that drives our work at USDA across all of our various programs, whether it's our Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program or our APHIS group, and the work that I do and rural development in the mission area that I work in is no different. We primarily, through our telecommunications programs, support the upfront infrastructure and construction costs to extend high-speed broadband in rural, unserved communities. But that service is nothing if folks aren't able to access it and to utilize it. And we know the life-changing power of broadband. You know, I think often of my grandmother, who first received electricity through the agency I work at when she was a little girl. And at the end of her life, when she could barely remember the names of her kids, she could still tell you about the day that she got electricity at her house and what that meant to her. And so, you know, I think the work that we do in terms of providing access to folks is no different. The power that internet can have on folks' everyday life really is so monumental and life-changing. So I'm really passionate about our work, excited about it. And again, most of our programs are focused on that upfront infrastructure cost. We do require all of our infrastructure award recipients to ensure that the projects and the networks that we finance have an affordable option for the communities that they serve. I also oversee our distance learning and telemedicine program, which provides funding directly to schools and hospitals to be able to harness broadband and take advantage of new technologies related to distance learning and telemedicine. And again, just a big thank you for inviting me, and I'm excited to be part of this panel, but also to join you all this week at this conference.
Thank you, Laurel. We're excited you're here too. Okay, so we're gonna just dive right in and address the 23 million pound elephant in the room. So we've heard a lot about the Affordable Connectivity Program this week and where it's at and all of that. So, but just a reminder to step back for a second. It was first introduced as a COVID-era relief program to support people getting online during the pandemic and under the monogram of the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. But thankfully, Congress recognized how essential, not just valuable, but essential addressing affordability is. And so when they passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, they put $65 billion to address broadband in different ways in the act. They did so in a way that addressed all the different barriers to digital equity, affordability being one of them. If you take that piece away, what happens to the rest? When you try to tie things in a knot and you don't have all the strings, it doesn't work, right? So the ACP, or Affordable Connectivity Program, impacts each of your various efforts and work. And so we'd love to hear more about how the potential wind down of the Affordable Connectivity Program impacts the implementation of your agency's programs. And as you all know, just to make sure we're on the same page, we are actually in the wind down period right now. As of last week, February 8th, no new enrollments are happening in the program. And if Congress doesn't act before the end of April, we will lose the program. So, Laurel, I'll start with you because you actually just touched on this briefly. Yeah. Can you talk about how ACP interacts with your programs and affordability in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So Under our programs, we do require and have a component surrounding affordability when we review our grant and loan applications. And starting last year, we required all of our funding recipients to participate in ACP. We are well aware of the wind down, and it does have a major impact. That's a big part of how providers ensure that the service is affordable to end users. I think I'm a very optimistic person, and I am optimistic that, something will be done in order to continue the great work of that program. But the way that we've, provided and really the underpinnings to our program is requiring that participation as long as the funding is there, and as well as supporting any successor programs, which is also, an opportunity. But again, I'm very optimistic. It seems like, and I'm lucky that I don't work on Capitol Hill, right? I work for a federal agency, but it does seem that urgency is what tends to create action, and certainly this is a very urgent situation.
Angie, can you share a bit about how ACP and its wind down might impact the Digital Equity Act programs and even maybe the broadband equity access and deployment programs and the tribal broadband connectivity program?
It's definitely going to have an impact. However, our programs, recognize the temporary nature of ACP, so states were required to include in their low-cost affordability strategies, options other than or in addition to ACP. So I think that is, that option, is available, for communities. So just because ACP goes away, if it goes away, it doesn't mean that, low-cost options will go away for communities. And, while we are in this space of, and I'm like you, I remain optimistic as well, but I think we also need to acknowledge and celebrate what ACP has done for our communities, right? So, things that, we've been able to have much more transparent conversations about affordability. It has definitely driven, these conversations. It's also led to more accountability in this space. And so we've seen prices, going down. They've been driven down overall, not just for low-cost options, but just the cost of internet has been, going down in communities. Contracts, those barriers to access, contracts have gone away. That was tying, individuals to these plans or penalties if they wanted to cancel. So I think those are some, and the other thing is like these low-cost plans have improved, because there was a time when these low-cost plans, while they were low-cost, they were substandard plans. So it's not as if it's new that these plans, right? It was the quality or the lack of quality and the dehumanizing level of quality that these plans offered. Less than, it may be $14.95, but it's less than 1 meg. What am I going to do with that? So what ACP and this work that we have all collectively done is that we've driven the quality of these plans to increase while the prices are decreased. And what we need to not lose sight of is that our plans, both BEAD and Digital Equity and TVCP, as well as the Middle Mile, has workforce development components. We need to be focused on increasing the skills and the economic mobility of our communities. Subsidies alone are not enough. If we're focused on our efforts of those that are able, getting them the skills and the resources and the tools that they need to increase their income while the prices of the internet are going down, they can afford to pay for their internet service, and they won't be so vulnerable and relying upon a subsidy that we're all waiting for someone to pass for our benefit. So it's right? Like we need the subsidies because the subsidies are needed for, certain vulnerable as we're getting through these transitions, but we should be ensuring that our communities are achieving economic mobility.
Well said. Thank you. Joey, can you talk about its impact on the capital project fund?
But we could have a round of applause
Yes,
for
we
Angela.
can.
It's okay. So we're in the similar boat as the Department of Agriculture, what Laurel just described. We require every provider that gets our money to participate in the ACP. Full stop. That is our commitment to affordability, our major overall commitment to affordability. And so if the ACP goes away, there will be a cascading effect on both the tens of millions of households who enjoy the benefit today, as well as the providers that are relying on a sustainable customer base as they're building out networks in places where there is no high-speed internet today. And so I am very worried about what the impact will be of the program going away. But I will add, and I want to emphasize what Laurel said, and I will put on my Hill hat, even though I don't work on Capitol Hill anymore. I did for 13 years, and I can say with utter certainty that Congress responds to stimulus, okay? Congress responds to being urged to do something. And so I am encouraged by the fact that there's 1,000 people in this room that care deeply about ACP. And this room could be multiplied many, many times over across the country. And so, yeah, it's really sad that we have entered the wind down phase of the ACP. However, we're just in the wind down phase. There's a couple months left to go. And there are still potential funding opportunities, or funding bills, I should say, that are going to make their way through Congress. So I would encourage all of you to be reaching out to those in power, to make sure that they understand how much you care about the program, how much we all care about the program, and how important it is for it to continue into the future.
Yes, absolutely. And I should have said, I kind of missed saying this, that there is a bill that's been introduced.
Right.
It's bicameral.
Yes,
Which means
bipartisan.
it's introduced on the House and the Senate.
And bipartisan.
And bipartisan.
Right.
Right? J.D. Vance came out and co-sponsored the bill, right? It's a huge. And so we need Congress, we need more co-sponsors, and we need Congress to pass this bill like yesterday. So please go ahead and do that, Congress. Thank you. I will get off my podium now. So Miriam, obviously as the agency that administers the Affordable Connectivity Program, the wind down phase is, are you busy right now? Maybe just like, you have nothing to do? So it obviously impacts the work that you do, but I think would be interesting to hear is, does its wind down impact anything else that you do? And also, share with the group anything else you want to share around the wind down.
Yes. So ACP wind down for the longest has been like Bruno, right? And we don't talk about Bruno because we were all incredibly optimistic and still remaining that way. But the reality is, right, there are over 23 million households that depend on this program today. And when you think about the world that we're living in, saying it's a digital age, when you think about applying for jobs, the pandemic shifted a lot of things for everyone. When you think about schools and how kids get educated today, homeworks are mostly online, how they access, tools and resources mostly online, telehealth. I mean, this is not something that we can just turn back on, right? And 23 million households that are depending on this program today are not all that could benefit from it. There's still millions and millions more that need affordable connection, but haven't gotten to, through the motion of applying for this program. So I think, this is one where it has bipartisan support. There are mayors all across this country that support this program. There are over 35 governors that support this program. When you think about private sector supporting this program, there is an overwhelming support up and down across this country, rural America, urban America, suburban America, like all across tribal lands. So this is one where we're not accepting this program coming to an end. And I think we all need to just continue doing the work that we're doing, continue pushing for, and advocating for this sustainability of this program. The other aspects of how wind down is affecting our programs. We, for the first time ever, the commission actually established an outreach grant program as part of this, because we understood that to reach households that could stand to benefit from affordable connectivity, we weren't going to be at the federal government bringing this program to them, that we needed to leverage our trusted messengers, our community partners, and we were able to enlist over 244 outreach partners. A lot of you are here today, and you all have been so instrumental to why this program has been so successful. So I want to just pause, and please, everyone, just let's acknowledge the work that you all have been doing, all the grassroots efforts and all of our digital navigators that are here today, really just promoting this program, getting those households online so that, the success stories that we've collected as part of this program, the impact, right? Like, numbers are not enough. It's sharing what is the real life impact that this program has had. People being able to get their degrees, people being able to get access to resources so they're not falling behind in school. So, we're not stopping this fight here at the FCC. We are all in. We're going to continue educating anyone and everyone about what this program means and the impact that this program is having, and pushing for not only a short-term solution, because yes, there is a bill in Congress and we want that to go through, but that's not going to be a permanent solution, right? Making sure that affordable internet is something that is available to all of those people that need it is a commitment that we need to make as a nation. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. So I have to say, I love the optimism. I'm going to steal a line from Trevor Noah and say, if you set an alarm this morning, you're an optimist.
Yeah.
So we're a room full of optimists, right? Because you all were on time. So we're a room full of optimists, and I'm optimistic that with this energy and this many people dedicated to this, we can make things happen, including more funding. Okay, so we're going to move away from ACP and talk about the many other really exciting things that are happening. And of course, per usual, it was very overly ambitious and have like 3 pages of questions. We're not going to get to them all. We do want to leave time for question and answers at the end, so get those ready. So Andy, I'm going to start with you. And let's talk about the Digital Equity Act and the Digital Equity Act programs. We're so excited. So first, can you just give us a little bit of an overview of where we are in the timeline of the implementation of them? And just a reminder, folks, this is what was allocated in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, $2.75 billion. And then can you talk a little bit about what folks should expect from your team this year, and then how they can prepare to leverage the funds that will be coming down the pipe?
Yes. Okay, so let me just give a quick overview. So of that $2.75 billion, it's broken into 3 grant programs. So the first one is $60 million, and that was for states and territories, as well as our tribal organizations to develop digital equity plans. So those funds were awarded 2022, and states are right now in the process of having their plans reviewed to ensure that they meet all of the requirements to be accepted by NTIA. The second pot of funding is $1.44 billion, what we call the State Capacity Grant Program. So once states have their plans accepted, we are going to launch the Capacity Grant Program soon. Can't give you an exact time frame, but it will be early 2024. So very, very soon, the capacity grant program will get launched, whereby states will submit their plans to NTIA to be awarded, and it'll be on a formula basis. Shortly after we launch the capacity grant program, we will then launch the competitive grant program, and that's a $1.25 billion grant program that will be open to not only, agencies of the state, but to the local community. So nonprofit organizations, workforce agencies, local municipalities, partnerships of those, will be eligible to compete and apply directly to NTIA for funding. So when you ask what should communities be doing now, strategic collaboration. Folks need to, one, start forging partnerships. Go to Broadband USA, our website. If you have not reviewed a draft of your state's digital equity plan, you need to. And give it some time, allocate some time, because these are pretty lengthy plans because they had substantial requirements that they had to meet. Identify where you see, collectively you can show up and help states achieve the goals that they have set forth in their plans. So those are things that, I would encourage communities, understand, your needs. The other thing that was a really big issue that we've seen come across the plans. If you have access to data of their other state agencies and not reached out to your broadband office, go to internetforall.gov. The contact information to your state broadband office is there. Our contact information is also on that website. We have a federal program officer assigned to every single state to serve every single state. We are all accessible, you can reach out to us. So, so just start organizing and really start to get prepared, and do not wait for the competitive grant program. Mm-hmm. Do not wait until competitive. States will receive capacity funds and they need help implementing their DE plans.
That's great. Thank you, Angie. I love that, and the strategic collaboration, right? I often just boil it down to find your friends, and guess what? There's a lot of them in this room. Form some partnerships. Joey, the last time you were here on our stage, you announced, actually, I think the first award from CPF that was going towards digital inclusion work in Kansas. Where's Kansas? Shout out, Kansas. Can you talk about other digital inclusion focus awards that have come out of your program, and then if you've seen anything particularly interesting, exciting, innovative that folks in the room should hear about and maybe learn from?
Absolutely. We're really midstream in our implementation. So our program is a $10 billion program, but states have the authority, have the discretion to use their money for laptop and device programs or to build multi-purpose community facilities. And so I'm proud to say that at this point, we have awarded over $100 million in digital equity projects to 8 states. So Kansas was first, but there was many more that came after them. And then on the community, the multi-purpose community facilities, which are really community centers and libraries, over half of the states, 26, are spending $1.3 billion on improving and enhancing the spaces where all of you do your work. And I think that's worth stepping back and noting that the states could have used all of our money just for broadband access, just for building out last mile connections. And over half the states have seen the incredible value there is in digital equity projects. and the incredible value there is in all of the work that you are doing. And so we are proud to be spending, over $1 billion on all of the efforts that you're working on here.
That's great. Thank you, Joey. So Laurel, at USDA, you all have the Community Connect grants, and applicants can use, like up to 10% of those funds to expand, improve, or purchase a community center that provides online access to the community. Can you tell us a little bit more what that looks like in practice, and then what those centers offer, and then who provides the digital inclusion services from the center typically, and then how can folks in this room partner with you all in that work?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of the key components to our Community Connect program that has made it so successful over time. So each one of our awarded projects must include a community center as part of their project. And as you noted, they can use some of the funds that are allocated from the grant, or they can use matching funds that are required under that program. And grant recipients have the option of constructing a new building or to utilize an existing building, and we really see both of those options being taken. And it's really exciting to see how they're accessed and utilized in the communities. Our goal with those community centers was to make sure that even folks who couldn't pay for the monthly cost of internet could still access the resources that are available through this community center, which is why we require them to be open and accessible during different hours. It can't just be during the school day. It can't just be on the weekends. It needs to be all the time. And what's really neat is we've seen a lot of different approaches to how folks are doing that. I was speaking with a recipient last month, and they actually have 2 community centers. One that's located in their local school, where we've provided computers for kids to use after school, and then another center that's accessible to more regular community members, because not everybody can access the school building. And they noted that the resource that's provided at the school is where they see the most activity. Not surprising. Students are there after school every day and taking care of their homework. We have other examples where folks actually have to line up to get into the facility because there's that need. We also see folks leveraging it not just for folks to be able to come get online, but to offer training and assistance, and that's something we really encourage. And so we see folks using that center to provide educational opportunities, as simple as how to get online, how to use Microsoft Word, how to navigate accessing the internet, to more expanded opportunities for folks to be able to take graduate studies, to maybe finish up their high school degree while they're at the community center. And so all of those are opportunities that folks can use those resources for. And again, I think it's been a really critical component of that program because what we see is it really ensures that everyone in a community is able to benefit from that internet service, and then we're also able to leverage it for educational purposes so that people can really understand how to use it. And I always say once you get someone online, then the things that they can go down and really harness, what are their interests, can be really amazing. And so we really appreciate that part of the program.
Thank you, Laurel. So Miriam, first, just thank you so much for all the hard work that you all are doing in winding down ACP. But the work extends beyond that at the FCC. Can you talk a little bit about what you all are working on that might impact the folks in this room and advocates, and online, hello online press, that everyone here should be aware of?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the core focus of the FCC is making sure that the internet is open, that it's fast, it's fair, and really ensuring that all of our policies, all of our rules are in the spirit of promoting that and actually fulfilling that goal. One of the concrete examples of what that is the broadband map that was released as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And that is ensuring that, we know as a nation where internet is, where broadband is and is not. There's a great deal of investment being made at the federal level, to ensure that there is access to internet, to broadband, to make sure that affordability again, it's the #1 barrier, so that continues to, we need to make sure that that part of the pillar is still a priority. But when it comes to the broadband maps, to ensure that all the investment that's being made is informed by actually where internet services are and are not, or is not. So that's one example. The other one is, there's been a lot of discussion in the sessions throughout the past 2 days about the broadband nutrition label. I know a lot of us, when it comes to signing up for internet service, it's confusing to go through the contract. It's confusing to go through what is my initial cost, how is that cost going to change over the life of my plan, and really it's simplifying that so that, there are no more junk fees and overcharges or just things that is hard to consume as a consumer, right? And that there's clarity around what are we paying for as consumers, what is the service that we're getting, is there going to be any change in our pricing after we sign up for the initial contract? So this broadband nutrition label is going to be a very game changer really for everyone. And this is going to get rolled out in the April timeframe. Again, even though the ACP is in the wind down mode for those that continue to need savings on their internet plan, there's also the Lifeline program, so continuing to ensure that that is something that is not appropriated, right? So there's sustainability for that program. But again, a lot of us here in the room know very much about Lifeline and the limitations with the funding level that that program has.
Yep.
But really it's, again, we've built a lot of partnerships, whether it's through the grants front or the ACP or a lot of the consumer engagements that we're doing, and it's really making sure that we are, you are helping inform a lot of the policies, a lot of the rules that are being developed within the FCC, and that you have an active and direct voice in really shaping what that looks like. So thank you for your continued partnership, and please just, keep being an active participant in that process.
Thank you, Miriam.
Yep.
All right, one more question, and then it's your turn. So I recommend if you have a question, head to a mic, and we'll keep this part brief. But so we all know, right? This is a long-term process. We are not going to solve the digital divide this year, next year, even in the next 5 years, which is probably the length of time some of these programs will run. So what's your best advice for folks in the room and online, how to sustain the momentum, how to leverage these funds to continue the work long beyond the next 5 years? And we'll just go down the line.
Okay. So really to underscore a lot of what I've said is speak up, and just as citizens, as active participants in this democracy, right? If we know there is a need in our communities and we know that certain programs are working, it's really doing the educating and speaking up and being an active participant, whether it's in the affordable connectivity program or any other aspects of what the commission does or any other programs that my colleagues here across the agencies are running. It's really just being an active participant and an active partner.
Thank you.
I think that success begets success, right? I told you a little bit ago about all of the investments that we're making at Treasury in digital equity and multi-purpose community facilities. You should be active partners in all of those projects. And I think that we serve in many ways as a terrific, virtual on-ramp to all of the efforts that NTIA is going to be doing in the future, both on the digital equity side and on the BEAD side, on broadband access, right? States are going through all of this right now with capital projects, and they're going to be going through it on a much larger scale with NTIA over the coming years. And so let's have successful projects. Let's talk about them. Let's brag about them. Let's copy each other's efforts. And I think that will lead to a proliferation of excellent outcomes across the country.
Okay. So during the pandemic, we were in a crisis mode. So there were a lot of activities that were very transactional, right? And so because we had to quickly do things, so we didn't have the time to plan and really collaborate and identify where there were gaps and where we can leverage resources. So I would say as we're moving into this, how can we be much more intentional about the work that we were doing? So for example, device distribution during the pandemic. There were so many device distributions happening. We were just getting them out and you were just hearing numbers. Distributed this number, this number, this number, but there was never any coordination. There was never any report back as to once you distribute it, now what? So what? Did we provide training with it? Did we impact lives? I was part of that, right? We connected an entire senior building, provided them with free access. The Public Housing Authority provided the devices, and then when we checked, no one was using it. Why? They didn't know how to turn it on. They didn't know how to put in the Wi-Fi code. They didn't know how to use it. So it's a so what you connected these houses. So what you provided devices. How did we impact lives? And how are we being very intentional about how we are capturing that data so that we can tell those stories so that you can go back and say, hey, we were really good stewards of this funding, Congress. We need additional funds so that we can continue to do the work that is necessary to empower our communities. And then the second piece is, I do troll the NDIA listserv. And I am just always so, I don't comment on it, but I do, it's important for me to hear what's going on in communities. And I am always so inspired when someone puts in a question, hey, I have a question about this, and then there's all these responses. Or, hey, I'm looking for a resource about this, and then all of these resources start popping up. We have to continue that. It is so important that we continue that spirit of supporting one another and not feeling like, hey, I have to be the one to own this, and if I share it, then someone may take my idea. Because I think I was at Kansas's state kickoff and they had a speaker there. We are stronger together. And I think that's what we have to remember as we're continuing this. This is about, while internet is a tool, devices are a tool, this is about humanity. This is about people, and this is about ensuring that every single person that we touch receive what they deserve, because they deserve to feel worthy. So for me, this is a mission of ensuring that every single person in our country feel worthy because they have what they need to thrive.
I love that. Thank you.
So I think I would come back to three common themes or recommendations for folks. One, I think as you heard through this panel, there's a lot of different federal programs and resources that are intended to help support communities. And as much as you're able to participate in multiple of those opportunities, I think the most successful communities will be ones that do harness and leverage those programs. And as Joey pointed out, it's a really historic point for us. We've never had this much federal funding to support the work that we're all doing. And so taking advantage of this once in a generation opportunity, I think is going to be really important for communities, and the ones that do take advantage of the most funding and programs, I think will be the most successful. Secondly, I would just encourage folks to be creative. The most successful projects for ours are the ones that are grounded in the actual and the real needs on the ground for folks in the community. I think about last year, Secretary Vilsack, the Secretary at USDA, was up in Washington State and visited the University of Washington School of Dentistry, which is a recipient of distance learning and telemedicine funding from our program. And not only are they leveraging our program to finance the cost of equipment appointment for teledentistry, they also noted a huge need in their community for early education. And what they shared with the secretary was that early prevention in dentistry is really critical for continued health. And so they're leveraging what we're doing through the program to also ensure that they're educating young parents about good health care for kids and offering teledentistry appointments with families to help educate them and ensure their kids know about that. And I think that's a really creative way. It's not something we would have thought of in Washington, D.C. And I think it's a really great way of taking something they knew was an issue and really running with it and creating a positive impact in their community. And then finally, I don't think I need to tell this room this, but I would just really encourage you all to continue speaking up and speaking out. Whether it's to folks like us, you know, at USDA, we want to communicate with our recipients, potential communities, and we want to have that one-on-one relationship. So take advantage of that. But I think it also goes back to our conversation about ACP, really speaking up to your leaders and the folks and letting them know how important that is to you and your community, I think will be essential.
Amy, can I add something?
Please.
We talk about historic funding, but I also want to just acknowledge that as the result of the 20-plus years of the work that the folks in this room and online have done, by this spring, we will have 56 digital equity plans for all of our states and territories. I mean, that is a historic moment as a result of your work. So to their point of speaking up, like continue to speak up, continue to advocate, because your advocacy not only resulted in funding, it's resulting in impact. So you should celebrate what your work has achieved.
Absolutely. So I was wrong. We no longer have time for questions, but our panelists are just the best, right? So we heard speak up, be creative, success begets success, be intentional. Remember, this is about humans, and continue to support each other. So these folks will be around for a little bit today. I encourage you to come find them and talk to them. And thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you.